And we're live. As you can tell, me and Steve were kind of joking and messing about before the start of it. There's still 0 viewers, so who the hell am I talking to? Steve, I think I'm crazy.
Somebody's going to watch it at some point, so, you know.
Yeah, I know. It always happens. There are a few people who have me on notification squad. I mean, I kind of have a lot of luck with my Hangouts where generally I don't get a lot of shitlords who come along and do it. The only time I ever really got a shit ton of shitlords was when Bering basically came across because he had some drama with Michael and saw, oh, Michael Rollins is doing a Hangout. I'm going to link this Hangout and we've got to troll the Hangout chat. And basically, I just really had fun putting him into 5-minute long or 6-minute long timeouts, right? No, that's 5 minutes long. My math is off. Yeah. For some reason, I was going off of like a 50-minute, off of a 50-second minute, which is a New York minute, not a normal minute. I'm not even a New Yorker. I can't use New York minutes.
You're going
All right, we've got our first viewer.
You're going on therapist's time.
Yeah, we're going on therapist's time. In other words, we're trying
doing 50-minute hours, 50-second minutes.
we're trying to shorten the time as much as possible so that we can extend it and say this is how much I'm charging you.
Exactly. I don't have to actually work for an hour, but you have to pay for an hour. It's just like an auto mechanic. You know, the book tells you to charge for this many hours of labor if you can get it done actually in half that time. That's great. You work half the time, you get paid for the full. They force you to
round up, which, I mean, I think generally that's kind of good for the worker.
Yeah.
I mean, workers in most places are very underpaid. It's unfortunate that to me, it's very unfortunate that it has to go to the people above and they have to they basically still have to divvy you the money based on that, but you're the one doing all the work. You're the one who's earning the money. No, when you ask to be paid a reasonable amount so that you can survive, they up the prices of their commodities, therefore causing inflation. And now that I think about it, it seems like this turned into a conversation about capitalism.
It took, 3 minutes?
It takes 3 minutes.
It took 3 minutes.
That's one of my big jokes is that people will tell me not to get political and I'll be like, oh, I won't get political, but 3 minutes into a party and one drink later, a couple sips of beer later, I'm already talking about liberating the working class, even if it means we have to punch some Nazis and throw some Molotovs into Starbucks. So this is a great start, and we haven't even had a proper segue.
No.
Because I'm pretty sure almost everybody who is watching this knows who Steve Shives is. Hell, Existential Anarchist is a mutual subscriber.
Their lives must be so empty.
I mean, my life is empty. That's why I have liquor. You know,
I mean, it's like...
Wine can fill a lot of things. It can fill a cask, an empty heart, empty life.
Well, because it's a liquid, it can fill virtually any space. It changes shape to fill the space that you pour it into.
Yeah, that's how fluid dynamics work.
Yeah,
right now we have 3 viewers watching. So,
well, let's see what we can do about that. Let's see if we can get it back down to 0.
We just talk to the audience as if they're actually there, but there's no one watching.
I mean, you know what's funny about what you just said, because you said, and it was very nice of you to say that you know most people who would watch this would know who I am, and that's really nice, and that's really flattering, but at the same time, it also kind of goes to show you what a tiny little bubble YouTube is, like especially like our little part of YouTube here, because I mean, if you think about it, like I have
YouTube though. I like to. I'm pretty proud of our bubble.
Oh, me too. I think we have some really good people. I mean, I'm very happy to be friends and sort of comrades with the people that I'm friends with. and I think it's great. And I think a lot of us do really good work. But like, you know, I like my channel has 50 some thousand subscribers. People who routinely make videos attacking me have a couple 100,000 subscribers for the most part. And
well, except for TJ, who had almost 1 million at one point, and now
yeah,
he's searching subscribers.
yeah, well, you know, fuck him. But like,
I wouldn't
but
fuck
even
him.
that, even well, I'm not. That's not a. To clarify, that is not a suggestion. That's nobody should ever actually do that. But,
Yeah, I mean, I often will joke, fuck that guy, and not in the fun way either.
yeah, not like that. But like even someone like that with 1 million subscribers, I mean, that's a lot. Like compared to me, or compared to you, or compared to somebody else that we probably would hang out with, but it's not like a lot. It's not a huge number. I mean, there are people on YouTube who have tens of millions of subscribers. There are people with 50 some million subscribers, and even they are not super famous outside of YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we forget, like, I mean, how insulated the YouTube thing is, where even like people who are super famous on YouTube, like if you just go out into the world and ask 10 random people, you know, do you know who Markiplier is? Most people will have no idea who the hell you're talking about.
Who the hell is Markiplier? No, I know who Markiplier is, but I didn't know for like the longest time because I usually don't watch like his channel or anything.
Oh yeah, well, neither do
only
I.
Passing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch his stuff either. But I mean, well, that's another thing that people might be surprised about is like I spend so little of my time paying attention to YouTube shit other than my own stuff. Like I spend a lot of time working on my channel. I spend a lot of time writing and making my videos. And there's a small group of other YouTube channels that I pay attention to. And it's mostly people that we both know that we're friends with. But other than that, like I don't really spend a lot of time like watching YouTube shit. Like most of the YouTube videos that I watch that aren't made by people that I'm actually friends with it's like watching, you know, shoot interviews with wrestlers. Like that's, if you look at my YouTube history, it's like, you know, Christy Winters video, or a One Janitor video, or a Kevin Logan video, or you know, some of my videos that I've watched back to look at something, and then it's like fucking Jim Cornette podcast videos for like 20. I mean, that
Jim Cornette podcast videos, actually those are pretty fun to watch. I mean, I got a lot of What Culture videos too.
What Culture is great, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've only got 2 comments so far. Solar the Inept Porpoise, who says, "Wait, is Steve a communist?" To answer that question, no.
No, I'm not.
But Steve is pretty friendly with a couple of communists here on YouTube, myself included.
Yeah.
And this same person said, "Steve, I think you blocked me even though I don't follow anyone on the right." Probably was an error from the block bot.
Yeah, it was probably a bot, because that's really the only reason. The only reason you would be blocked by me would be either that you are on a block list for some reason, or a block bot that I use, or you follow somebody that I used a blockchain on because they were inciting harassment against me, or you personally pissed me off and I blocked you personally. But I actually don't do that all that often. People would be surprised who piss and moan about how big my, you know, how many people I have blocked. I almost never will actually push the block button on somebody. Usually,
how big is my block list? If you basically said last night, I don't know how big my block list is, and I don't care.
I don't care. It means nothing to me. I mean, and then my follow-up answer was not big enough because I still get people tweeting irrelevant, annoying, you know, shit at me to pester me.
Solar the Inept Porpoise said, "If I unfollow the person, will it unblock me?"
No.
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, I would have to.
However, you could probably contact me on Twitter. I don't use block bots, and I could probably look through what you say and like let Steve know whether the stuff you say is,
if it's
okay or not, because Steve has
Yeah.
unblocked some cool people in the past. Because sometimes, I mean, I think Steve started following me before I started following some people that would put me on his block lists. But if Steve didn't follow me, I probably would be on his block list myself.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing about the blocking thing is, if you've never experienced like what it's like to try to use Twitter when some shitty person has just made a video about you or retweeted something of yours to their followers, and you're just getting inundated with just, nasty, shitty comments, or people just, asking ridiculous, irrelevant questions, or just trying to get at you and bother you. I mean, it can be emotionally draining, but also it makes Twitter damn near impossible to use, because you're just getting notifications about just shit that is absolutely meaningless and is just annoying. So when you get that and it's happening to you by the hundreds or by the thousands, using block lists and doing a blockchain, like if someone with 100-some thousand Twitter followers has tweeted something nasty about me and all of their followers are coming at me, there's an app there's a browser plugin called Twitter Blockchain that you can use that will just block all of their followers. And that's not a perfect system, because there are people who follow people. There are people who follow people that they don't like or they don't agree with, and they just follow them for whatever reason, to keep an eye on them or to laugh at them or whatever.
Cough, cough, me following Sargon.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. So, I mean, people get blocked when you do stuff like that. When you block people en masse like that, you're always going to block people that don't really deserve to be blocked, that didn't really mean any harm, or didn't care, or didn't even know who you were, or whatever. That's always going to happen. And that's unfortunate. And if there was like a perfect method to avoid that, I would do that. But there's not a perfect method to avoid that. So yeah, if someone gets blocked by me and it's important enough, they care enough that they're like, I wish Steve would unblock me. I mean, you can email me. My email address is on my YouTube channel, or you can ask someone else on Twitter who knows me to say, hey, have a word with Steve, see if he'll unblock me. You've done that before. Mike Rowlands has done that a lot. Mike Rowlands is like the Steve whisperer. He's always like tweeting at me saying, hey, what about this person? Can you unblock this person? So, I'm happy to unblock people who were blocked, just automatically, who aren't necessarily bad people. But at the same time, like, you have to let me know, because I don't lose sleep over it. Like, I personally don't care, because it's not that important to me. But if you've been blocked by me and it's important to you, you can reach out and I'll check out your page. And if you seem like a cool person, I'll unblock you.
Yeah. Well, I think Solar the Inept Porpoise kind of made a good point. Maybe I used to follow someone I don't follow anymore when I tried to follow Steve. But when I tried to follow American Anarchist, I wasn't following them anymore. This is a possibility.
That's possible.
So, yeah. I mean, if I knew who you were, I would be able to, like, tell Steve exactly what your Twitter page is. And my DMs are open, so, like, I don't even have to be following you for you to send me a direct message. And I think I've been kind of lucky with the fact that I can keep them open like that, because I have never gotten harassment through direct messages, or never gotten it en masse. Oh, hello, Democratize the Media. Yeah, Chief Scabell said, nice new avatar, Rose. Yeah, you would know. You made it for me. And Democratize the Media said hi, and now is the perfect time for me to tell you that his channel is probably a good channel to check out, Steve, because he has asked me if I could plug his channel to you before, and I keep forgetting. I forgot about it, because I tried to do it, but you know how you normally don't always answer. You know how you don't always answer, like, when people send you messages?
Yeah, I have a bad habit of seeing someone has messaged me, and then I say, oh, I'll get back to them later because I'm doing something else, and then I never get back to them. So
I've done that too, and then I am like, oh shit. Yeah, like at night I'm like, oh, right before I'm about to go to bed, oh, I forgot to check this person back. I hope I didn't miss like something really important, like my friend like saying they need some help because they're thinking of harming themselves or something.
Yeah.
Which is actually a horror that runs through my mind because it is something that happens to me a bit more frequently than a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who are mentally ill, so
Yeah.
it happens. Some people, it's just something that happens, and nothing wrong with the person. But I mean, you want to make sure your friends are safe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would feel terrible if, somebody reached out to me and I didn't get back to them right away and then something happened. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a limit to what I can do. It's not like I can physically restrain them. Like if I have a friend back from my hometown, these are usually the friends I'm talking to, and I'm
Yeah.
a 45-minute drive away. It's not like I can physically restrain them by like the power of technology. I can't reach my arms through a computer screen or through a phone screen to like hug them or anything, like something that they like feel like they desperately need.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I've got to like reach out to people and see what I can do to like say, hey, I am concerned about this person, and like I want you to know that I'm concerned about this person because I know that you know this person and that you can help them out if something is about to go bad.
Yeah.
Um, Chief Scabell says, Steve, I know you hate white supremacy, but what do you think of violence against it? I personally endorse it, but that's because my avatar has a swastika crossed out, so I'm committed to the idea. I'm pretty sure I could answer it because this guy's basically saying, I know you hate white supremacy, but how do you feel about people punching white supremacists?
Uh, Personally, I don't care. I think I would stop short of advocating it, of saying go out and punch white supremacists, like go out and look for white supremacists to punch. But if I hear that a white supremacist got his ass kicked, I'm gonna say, oh, good. I mean, like I don't feel bad about it at all. A lot of the way I view things like that is I figure out where my sympathies lie. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're talking about just a random person, like just like if you said to me, Steve, somebody was just walking down the street minding their own business, and then somebody ran up to them and beat the shit out of them, I would probably say, oh, that's awful. That should never happen. What a terrible thing. Why would anybody do that?
Spencer got punched in the face. You were like,
Yeah.
I hope it happens to him again.
Yeah, because we don't live in theory world. We live in real world. And if you tell me that just some random stranger got beat up and I don't know anything else about them, I'll probably just assume that they didn't mean any harm and they shouldn't have been beaten up. And I'll think, oh, that's terrible. But if you tell me that like a professional white supremacist or a dude walking down the street with a swastika t-shirt, or someone who's like known to be a skinhead, or just somebody like that.
1488 tattoo on their neck or
Exactly.
something.
Somebody with like that are broadcasting some Nazi shit, or are known to be like a white supremacist or a Klans member or something like that, and they were walking down the sidewalk and somebody popped them. That's different because that's a bad person. I'm willing to say that. I'm willing to say if you are in the KKK or you are a neo-Nazi or you promote white supremacy, that you are a bad person. That's not something you should do. That's a bad thing. And if somebody finds you on the sidewalk and knocks your teeth out, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I'm going to say, oh, well, that's just what happens. And I'll even go a step further and say, and if it happened the next time you walked out of your house, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. I mean, I can't summon any sympathy in my heart for people like that. I feel sympathy for the people they're trying to hurt, not for the people that hurt them. Or not for them being hurt. I have no sympathy whatsoever for people like that. So like if Richard Spencer gets the shit kicked out of him every time he pokes his head through his door, that doesn't bother me at all. So and some people might say, well, what's the difference between that and just saying, we'll go ahead and advocate violence? I mean, maybe there isn't a huge difference. I mean, I'm not saying go out and find Nazis and beat them up. But I am saying if I hear that a Nazi gets beaten up, I'm not going to care. And I'm not going to waste my breath trying to argue about, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's a bad thing.
Richard Spencer, because, it's not like he's calling for genocide. Oh, wait. Oh, no. He's calling for something that I've heard. He's not calling for genocide because he wants a peaceful ethnic cleansing.
Oh, is that it? Yeah, that's
peaceful ethnic cleansing. Explain how peaceful ethnic cleansing works.
That brings up another good point too, because I've heard that specific argument for people like Spencer, and I've heard people make that form of argument before, where they'll say, well, what if the white supremacist or the anti-Muslim or the xenophobe or the misogynist or whatever bigot you're talking about, the anti-immigrant person, what if they're being civil? What if they're being civil and they're saying and they're not inciting violence or whatever? And I don't know. I mean, if what you're saying amounts to black people aren't human and don't deserve rights, or women don't deserve equal rights, or LGBTQ people don't deserve equal rights, I mean, I don't know of a polite, civil way to say that. I think that idea is inherently uncivilized and inherently dangerous. So it doesn't matter how sweet and polite you're being when you say, I don't think black people deserve rights.
People should be kicked out of the country.
It's like, you can have as friendly of a tone as you want. It doesn't make a difference to me. What you're saying is monstrous.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard the whole argument, black people should be taken out of the country. And I kind of think black people they didn't come here on their own accord. They were kind of dragged here by us. Yeah. And now that you're not allowed to subjugate them, you now want to kick them out?
Well, and not only that, but also, and this is the part that all these white supremacists hate to acknowledge, and they don't acknowledge it, they just flat out deny it. Not only were black folks brought here against their will, they were used as slave labor for generations, and it's largely on the backs of their labor and the labor of German immigrants and Irish immigrants and Chinese immigrants and Mexican immigrants and all kinds of other immigrant groups that were ruthlessly exploited when they first got here for decades, that the modern American society was built. People say that, like, oh, what about, white people are the ones who built civilization. No. White people are the ones who enslaved and exploited other people and forced them to build civilization. It was their hard work and their labor, most of which they had no choice but to offer.
We're talking to Commie Steve now.
Well, I'm not. I mean, I just don't. He's
converted.
It's not so much. I mean, I what I'm saying is I guess it's compatible with like a communist view of things, but I don't even view it necessarily in those terms. I'm just thinking in terms of people say, oh, white people built America, and that's not true. I mean, yes, there were certainly very hardworking white people who did a lot of very important things, but there was also a huge amount of slave labor, a huge amount of immigrant labor that was not, that was not well compensated, that was not voluntary, that was people just being ruthlessly exploited. And that's like, it's not just a nation of immigrants because people from different countries came here to live. They did the labor. They did the work. They put up the buildings. They paved the roads. They built the dams. Not even by their own choice. They planted and plowed the fields. And by the way, they still do. I mean, so that whole line of thinking, that white supremacist line of thinking of, well, this is a white person civilization. No, it's not. No, it's not. All of Western civilization was built on slavery and colonialism. And that's just an unfortunate, ugly part of our legacy that we have to own and we have to acknowledge and we have to start trying to make right. You know, we can't just go on pretending like, oh, it was all us white people. We were all the geniuses, and all those, you know, different people of color. All they just were ticks on our back. No, absolutely not. It was exactly the other way around. We were the ones who were depending on them to raise our civilization.
Chief Scabell brought up a good point. Being sweet and polite is a form of gaslighting. Like when you do something like that,
great point.
You're basically gaslighting and saying, but I was sweet and nice about saying that I want to kill all Jewish people. Therefore, you can't punch me in the face for being a neo-Nazi.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the historical parallels to that are, I mean, when fascists took control of governments in Europe, when the Nazis rose to power in Germany, they didn't start by saying we're going to have a Holocaust. I mean, there was very much a large element of anti-Semitism in their rhetoric. Nazis were always anti-Semitic from the very beginning, but they didn't start off by saying we're going to round up all the Jewish people and put them into camps. They led off with a much more reasonable sounding thing, right? They actually, I mean, people, you know, when Hitler first came to power, he was democratically elected, and his campaign slogan, I'm sure, wasn't "We're going to kill all the Jews."
I think there's one correction to that statement. Yeah. Hitler technically was, while his party was democratically elected, he himself was not democratically elected. He was a next in line, and basically when his predecessor stepped down, he then got into power.
Right. Yeah. Well, but yeah, because he was first, he was chancellor, and then the person above him like abdicated or stepped down, and then Hitler kind of rose from there. Yeah. But
kind of like it's kind of like the vice presidency would be.
Yeah. Yeah. But it wasn't like, I mean, but yeah, but basically he didn't seize power via a military coup. You know, he got into the government through superficially legitimate means. And, you know, and I mean, people, it's debatable as to how much, you know, how much of this is true, but I'm sure that there were people in Germany at the time, and a lot of it was probably people who were intentionally looking the other way because they didn't really want to know what was going on. But I'm sure there were people in Germany who didn't realize the lengths to which the Nazi genocide had gone until the end, until it was undeniable. And, you know, so this idea that, well, Richard Spencer, you know, he's not saying that we should round up all the non-white people and put them in camps and exterminate them. No, of course not. Yeah.
It's never where.
No, and nobody ever says that. Nobody ever said, except for like some, you know nothing redneck KKK guy who's, you know, speaking at a Klan rally in front of 5 people. They might say something really nasty and violent, but people like Spencer who are media savvy enough to know that you can't get on TV if you start talking about genocide, you know, he's gonna have a much nicer pitch. It doesn't change the facts of what he's saying.
Yeah. Well, now there's 3 different questions that I think are great questions that I would have wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So the man they called Jane says, "Hey Steve, you said in one of your videos that you started to watch Japanese wrestling because Trump/WWE got cozy. How does one get into that? Because it sounds vaporwave as fuck, and I need that in my life. I read it as well as you do. I have a bit of a stutter because I talk faster than I can think sometimes.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of Japanese wrestling, so it can be overwhelming if you've never watched any of it. You know, it's hard to know where to start.
Japan.
Yeah, I would recommend New Japan. I think because for one thing, New Japan has an American TV show on Access TV that if your cable provider doesn't have Access TV, you can find it online. You can Google it, and there's, you know, I'm sure that there's websites that put up the episodes, and that's a really good place to start. The New Japan show on Access TV, because they don't show current matches. They show matches like from a couple months ago or from last year or something, but it's with English language commentary. And they do a really good job of sort of catching you up on who everybody is and what the background is of the matches. And for a while, Jim Ross was doing commentary for them. He's not doing that anymore because he's back with WWE now. But if you watch some of the episodes from earlier this year and last year, you get to hear Jim Ross and I think who was his commentary partner? I forget who his commentary partner was. Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett was his partner, the color commentary guy, and they actually are a really good team and do some really good commentary. But New Japan is a good place to start if you want to get into Japanese wrestling, and if you want to look at older stuff. I mean, in the '90s, the best Japanese wrestling for my money was All Japan. That's where they had guys like Mitsuharu Misawa and Toshiaki Kawada and Kento Kobashi that had just some of the best wrestling matches you'll ever see. And you can find that stuff online as well if you look for it. But I mean, it's intimidating if you've never watched any of it. But if you want to get into it and you've never been into it before, I would recommend New Japan. That's mostly what I've been watching because it's the easiest to find. You know, New Japan is kind of, yeah, go ahead.
Also, if you have Netflix, this isn't Japanese wrestling, but Lucha Underground is on Netflix.
Yeah. Lucha Underground is very good. Yeah. I've been watching that too. Yeah.
And the second question, which is technically a question directed at both of us, although I'm pretty sure Chief Scabell knows the answer. What's both of your opinions on American decolonization, or, well, I would say decolonization in general? I'm for it. However, I'm not exactly sure how to go about it, and I'd rather listen to native people when they talk about it, and I'd rather listen to their ideas about it. So I think as white people, me and Steve we shouldn't like really give much of an in-depth opinion on it. But Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like there's a famous quote from Gandhi where someone asked him, what do you think of Western civilization? And he said, I think it would be a wonderful idea. And that's how I feel about decolonization. I think it would be a wonderful idea for America and for Western powers in general, although the main culprit these days is the United States, to sort of pull back and allow native people and people to take control of their own countries and their own resources.
Including Americans, like we should stop infringing Native Americans.
Yeah, I mean,
the question about American colonization is specifically with Native Americans, how they feel, basically trying to basically stop infringing on Native Americans.
Yeah. Well, just think about the Dakota Access standoff, and how it's difficult to imagine that happening if the people who were protesting were white Americans rather than indigenous people, right? I mean, they rerouted this pipeline to go through the Standing Rock land because people in a town nearby didn't want it to go near their town. Basically, the white people said, we don't want it. So the army said, okay, well, we'll just put it under the Indian reservation. And the Standing Rock tribe said, well, we don't want it either. And the army basically said, well, too bad. You don't have a choice. You're getting it. I mean, that's just unfathomable. That's
when
unthinkable.
It would have poisoned the water. And those protests are still going on because they're still trying to get the Dakota Access Pipeline through there, even with the small victories that have been made by protesters at the Dakota Access Pipeline. They're still trying to put it there. They're basically like, we don't. I don't know exactly why it reminds me of Wounded Knee, but it kind of reminds me of the quote from the from Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, where he says, "You would have us cut our balls off to end our race here, to end our civilization here."
Yeah.
Like the Native Americans talking about themselves, that you would have us end our culture right here if you could. I mean, we've done a lot of shit to the Native Americans, and we're still doing it, whether we like to admit it or not.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just generally, it would have poisoned their water too. Like if that fails, which pipelines fail from time to time, every pipeline has some kind of failure. It would have poisoned the water, and that's drinking water for like for several miles area. Like this is like Flint, Michigan times 4 or 5 in like scope that you're talking about that would be affected by this. You're basically getting an even bigger situation than Flint, Michigan, where their water is completely undrinkable.
Yeah.
And there is democratize the media, which this one's more of a comment, but I think that you'd find quite a bit of agreement in it. I know I find agreement in it. White culture consists of stealing other cultures. All white is not the other. The definition of whiteness has expanded with time only when colonialists dropped the effort.
That's true. That's actually, I mean, that's historically true. That, and people, I think people who have never really studied this and don't really know the history of it would be surprised to know how recent the idea of whiteness is. As recently as just a few hundred years ago, people who we would now think of as white, or who would think of themselves as white, didn't think of themselves in terms of white. They thought of themselves in terms of their nationality. So a German wouldn't think of himself as a white person. A German would think of himself as a German, and an Englishman would think of himself as an Englishman. And the whole idea of whiteness came about as a definition of exclusion. That's exactly right. White people are the people who are not non-white people, who are not black or brown or whatever color was assigned to the various other types of people in the world as they defined it. And yeah, and it's something that the definition has expanded as people have been sort of welcomed in. You know, people who
just saying 100 years ago, I'd be mostly non-white because the majority of my DNA comes from Ireland and Italy. Like I'm Sicilian and Irish. I wouldn't have been considered white 100 years ago.
Yeah,
I would have been considered. I would have been considered a person of color, and I would have been discriminated against. However, the definition, basically, both Italians and Irish got the status of white by participating in racism against black people. You know, they basically looked at white people and they said, "Don't look at us. Look at those filthy Negroes over there."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really just basic sociology. It's in group and out group. And when people like Italians or Germans or the Irish, who had been considered part of the out group relative to white people, were accepted as part of the in group because they said, well, at least we're not black people, or at least we're not Mexicans, or at least we're not Chinese, or whatever the even more reviled immigrant or ethnic group was. Then people started to say, oh, you know what, they're on our team. You know, and nowadays, pretty much anybody, most European peoples are considered white. Not all, but most European peoples are considered white. And that was not always the case.
Basically, the only people who aren't considered white in Europe are Slavs and Middle Easterners, because, you know, part of the Middle East is in Europe.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I don't know if it's entirely fair to say that like all like white culture is nothing but stealing other people's cultures, but it's a huge part of it. I mean, there is a huge legacy and a huge historical precedent of white culture, because white culture is usually the dominant culture wherever it is, taking from the more oppressed, marginalized cultures and sort of making that stuff their own, or our own, I should say, because I'm part of it. That's yeah, and that's that again. That's something that a lot of like the people like Richard Spencer don't like to talk about. You know, they talk about, oh, white music. Well, what's white music? I mean, in the last 150 years, white.
Yeah, but last I checked, even even if you look at like death metal and black metal, I mean, if you go back to their roots, those go back to like the jazz and early rock and roll, which was created by black people. You
Oh
know,
yeah. I mean, even forms of modern music that we now associate almost exclusively with white people, like here in the United States, I would, you know, something like bluegrass is mostly thought of as like a white form of music, but bluegrass is influenced by rhythm and blues, by folk music, by jazz to a certain extent, and there's by the blues, and those are all forms of music that are overwhelmingly the product of black performers and black writers and black musicians. So even a form of music that today we think of as white people music has roots that reach into African American culture. And that's this, I would say that's the same of almost any popular form of music today. I mean, any form of music that white people have adapted and made our own in the last century or more is something that either started out as African American music, or music from some other non-white culture, or was at least very, very strongly influenced by that.
yeah. Um, yeah. Also, this one's a good comment from Democratize the Media. As a Jewish person who considers himself white, I only consider myself as such because it's like a phenotype. This gives me white privilege, but the white nationalists would waste me, of course. Although it depends on which white nationalists, because even the white nationalists can't agree on what the definition of white is, which I think shows how arbitrary of a designation it is.
Yeah.
And what do you think? Solar, the inept porpoise. What do you think of Theresa May and the state of politics in the UK? I think
Go ahead.
I don't know whether Theresa May. I don't know whether the election has come up already, but
It's on Thursday.
okay, it's on Thursday. I want Corbyn to win, just because I think every other alternative is even worse than if Corbyn wins. I don't think Corbyn will be much change, but it's better than, and hell, I think it might even be a net negative, but it's better than just fully embracing destruction.
Yeah.
You know, embrace a slow destruction that can possibly be stopped, as opposed to going for a destruction. But I would say for anarchists in the UK that like their best bet would be to still put direct action ahead of voting, put it ahead of any ballot. That was kind of the position I took with the American election, is that you don't really need to vote if you're not morally inclined to vote on this, but you need to make your voice heard in some way, whether it be active protests. And I mean, anarchists have done a good job at making, or just communists in general, but I mean, it's been mostly attributed to anarchists by the media. We've had our voices heard, even if even if they've tried to put it in a negative light. Anarchists were the ones who punched Richard Spencer. It was,
Right.
it was the guy was in a black bloc uniform when he punched Richard Spencer. It was an anarchist who punched Richard Spencer.
Right.
Like, we've made our voices heard, and we've said that we will not allow fascism, and we will fight fascism where it spreads by whatever means we have to. So my state is that the politics themselves are very shaky. They just they really are. Oh, we got our first shitlord, Jeff Holiday. Block. Okay, now Jeff Holiday is blocked. He can still see the chat, so I mean, I'd like to see him send his shitlord army here. So, democratize the media. Just know that you have modding privileges. So if you want to have some fun, you can also join in on kicking these people out, on banning them.
Well, but as for the UK election, I've actually had a little bit of anxiety about it. I'm surprised at how invested I am in it, and I think it's because I'm sort of living vicariously through the UK election at this point, because I remember last year when
we saw shit with Trump.
Well, not only that, but specifically for the UK, you know, last year they had their referendum on Brexit, and it went the wrong way, and Brexit won, and that was sort of the first inclination that we in the United States should have had, that maybe this Trump thing should be taken a little bit more seriously. Because if people in the UK could vote to leave the European Union, which to me seems like just an absolutely unthinkable thing, then it should have dawned on a lot of us, you know what, we should really pay attention to Donald Trump, because if we thought that it was unthinkable that the Brits would vote to leave the EU, it shouldn't be unthinkable now, and it shouldn't be unthinkable that Trump could win this election. And so I mean, yeah, I am pulling for Labor. I'm pulling for Corbyn. I would love to see Labor win. I think Corbyn would be a much better prime minister than Theresa May. I am not a Tory by any stretch of the imagination. I am not aligned with the Conservative Party, no matter what country we're talking about. I think I just can't support right-wing candidates like that. And I can't support establishment traditional candidates who all, you know, they all end up proposing the same sorts of things: cuts to public works, cuts to the welfare state, you know, cuts to public assistance, and you know, increased military spending, privatizing things, you know, turning things over to the free market because that supposedly will fix everything. I can't support any of that, because poor people and immigrants and basically vulnerable people are always the ones who end up getting the shaft as a result of those policies. And yeah, I mean, I know people in the UK who are leftist in their politics, who are probably even, you know, who are to the left of me, who aren't super thrilled with Corbyn, who, you know, who don't think he's like the perfect candidate, who are have reservations, but at the same time are saying, you know, this is the moment, this is our chance. We didn't think we would have another election so soon.
Well, my chat is ripping Jeff Holiday apart.
Well, good. That's what should happen. That's what should happen every time Jeff Holiday or anybody else of his ilk shows their face. It's an embarrassment that YouTube.
Well, I mean, I'm also having fun blocking the people who come up like violence is wrong, and it's like, well, you're just trying to frame me as a bad person. You're not like genuinely trying to have a discussion about it. Like, if you were, you'd ask me like a question that wasn't worth to poison the well.
Yeah.
I will not tolerate disingenuous people. That's just a rule that I have.
Well, a lot of people don't even know how to do that. That's the shame of it. Is there are a lot of people on the anti-feminist, so-called anti-SJW side of things who don't even know how to formulate an honest question. who don't even know how to not poison the well or stack the deck, or you know what I mean? Like they just don't know how to do that, because the people that they watch never do that. You know, the people whose YouTube videos they watch, like Jeff Holiday, like Bering, like Sargon, like TJ Kirk, they never engage honestly. They say that's what they're doing. They pretend that that's what they're doing. They pretend that they care about open discussion and honesty and nuance and all this other, you know, but those are just buzzwords. They don't care about any of that. They will tilt the table in their favor if they possibly can. They will disparage and misrepresent the opposing position as much as they can, shamelessly, to make themselves look better and to make it look like they're the only ones that can possibly be right, because they know that their audience either won't know any better, which is usually the case, or just won't give a shit. So, I mean, they don't even, they don't value the skill of asking an honest question, because they never have to do that on their channels. Nobody ever forces them to ask an honest question in their own videos. And they sure as hell don't hold themselves to any kind of a standard of integrity and honesty and fairness. You know,
I just banned Ranting Monkey. Oh, we're now coming in and we're now having some fun. And some people who I didn't even know are watching have already gone and banned some people from the chat. This is great.
That's awesome. I didn't even know you were here.
I didn't even know you were here. You haven't commented yet, but I saw that you banned someone. Get on
lying
you, Red
in wait.
Blanco.
They were lying in wait like SJW guerrillas, hiding in the shadows, waiting to attack.
Yep. I mean, I have enough bots that I think we'll be able to keep up with the shitstorm. If I was on, I know that I can't keep up with like a whole shitstorm. Like when Bering fucking sent his followers to my channel, it just got flooded, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna look at the fucking chat anymore at this point. I had enough fun putting Bering into like 6 different 300-second timeouts, but like, you know, I mean, to me, it's kind of like how it's kind of like how Christopher Hitchens in like when a 9/11 truther would, because you know Holocaust deniers get the right to free speech, but you know 9/11 truthers, fascist crackpot.
Yeah.
Crackpot. I mean, I wouldn't use the word I mean, I wouldn't use the word crackpot as much anymore, and also I keep forgetting to stop using the word stupid because it is an ableist slur. There are ways. There are other words that you can use. I'm not sure how you get the wrench. I saw that like some other people had wrenches, but like, yeah, I mean, these are people who I made channel mods just in general. So in the future, anytime, you'll just automatically get the ability to like delete messages and kick people out of the chat, because I think really just anything to prevent this from devolving into absolutely toxic bullshit. It's really like I don't really care if your opinions are bad. Like you can say whatever stuff that I think is absolutely wrong. It's once it gets into bigoted territory that I'm like, yeah, not going to tolerate it. I mean, imagine you're coming into my house. I have every right to kick you out of my house. That's the way that YouTube works. YouTube basically takes the principle. I mean, you guys claim to love, especially a lot of anti-feminists, they claim to love. Oh, gladly, I'll block that. Someone said your face is toxic bullshit. Block that.
Like, is that like a dare?
Are you daring me? Like, I've gotten better dares.
I get comments like that because I moderate all my video comments, and
same here.
and occasionally people will say like, oh, blah blah blah, a bunch of, they'll insult me or say a bunch of bullshit, and then they'll say, and I bet you'll delete this comment. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
What are you trying to accomplish?
They're trying to goad you into not doing it by like attacking your manhood.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess they think that I give a shit.
It's like, well, yeah, I'm not a man. I'm a trans woman. Fucking. But even then, it's like, even before then, I'm thinking, like, I don't get what calling me not a real man is supposed to, like, accomplish. Like, I know it's supposed to accomplish that I know that it's supposed to accomplish that I basically don't block the comment to prove them wrong, but it's like, no,
Right.
no, you've got me pinned correctly. You think that it's a bad thing, but I heavily disagree that it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that I think it's a good thing that I basically say you're not allowed to be a really bigoted piece of shit. You can say something that is absolutely wrong, and you can say some stuff that might come close to bigotry, but as soon as you basically have made your comment like just a heap of slurs,
Yeah.
or you're trying to attack me or whatever, I'm like, yeah, fuck you. Yeah, get out of here.
Well, I mean,
I don't have to pay attention to what you say.
No, that's the thing. You don't owe it to anybody to let them say abusive things on your channel. And I mean, in a way, like some of my favorite comments to delete are the ones where it's obvious that they put a lot of time into it. Like
Yeah.
they wrote just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of just bullshit. I love deleting those comments. I love deleting them without even reading them.
Yeah, I was going to say, without even reading it, you're like, okay, yeah, you just slightly skim it, and you don't even really get the.
It's like, I see where this is going.
You skim it just enough so that, like, you know that it took time to write, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna have fun deleting this one.
Yeah, because I mean,
Tracy made a good comment. We've crossed a threshold where opinions and innuendo are supposed to be, or are supposed to garner the same respect as facts.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Truth.
Exactly. It's ironic that a lot of these people claim to not care about feelings. They say your feelings don't matter, or facts over feels and all that shit, but they sure do seem sensitive when you hit their sore spots, don't they? I mean, their feelings, like they
once you basically say, yeah, your feelings don't override the fact that I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. Or, like maybe it hurts your feelings that I think you're a racist, but I still think you are one, and I'm still not going to let you post on my channel. I mean, facts over feels. Sorry. I just don't, the whole like self-centered deal that people like that have, where it's all about them, and you can tell that their number one priority, just like you were saying about the guy, if somebody leaves a comment and they challenge you not to delete it, their whole mission is to get that comment through. All they care about is getting you to pay attention to them, or allowing.
They're actually trying to catch 22 you, like, if you really think about it, because if you do, I got my comment through and you're a cuck. But you're weak. You have no spine. And if they don't get it through, oh, you're weak and you don't have a spine and you don't hear other people's side of things.
Exactly.
I hear it all the time in my real life. I don't have enough time for it. I don't have enough time for internet bullshit because I already deal with a real life bullshit where people say just as important shit.
Yeah. Well, I've
dealt with neo-Nazis. I've dealt with misogynists. I do not have time for them.
Yeah. There's more important there's more important things to worry about in general life than YouTube shit. And people, all of these little, like playground psychological warfare tactics that they try are all premised on the idea that you give a shit about what they think. And if you just decide, you know what? I don't give a shit what you think. If you think that I am a hypocrite or a cuck or a wuss or you know, whatever, because I delete your comment, I don't care what you think. Your opinion of me, your judgment of me and my character means absolutely nothing to me. And if you say something that I think is shitty or irrelevant in my comment section, I'm going to delete your comment, and I'm not going to lose a moment's sleep over it because I don't care about you. And based on what little I've seen of you with that little comment you wrote, you're not somebody that I think I should be paying attention to. So go pester somebody else. I mean, I've got other shit to do. And you're right that they try to do this catch-22 thing. They do it with people who make response videos too. That's one of the reasons why I don't make response videos. But where, like, if you don't make response videos like me and you just never respond to anybody, they say, oh, he's a pussy, he's afraid to debate, he doesn't have the courage of his convictions, he knows that his ideas can't stand up, blah blah blah. Like, that's what you get if you don't say anything. If you do make response videos and you get into a back and forth with somebody and you start making video after video after video about somebody, then it's, oh my God, he's so obsessed. Oh, he's a stalker. Oh, he makes so many videos.
My friend Jake just said, I love deleting the comments of, and I love deleting the comments of and blocking people who get angry about it.
Oh, that's the best. You know, don't you love when people show their ass to you when they're like, I can't, how dare you? Did you delete my last comment? Oh my God. Like, yeah, just keep showing me your ass, dude. Like, that's all you're doing. Like, how am I supposed to respect you? You want me to respect you and take you seriously, and you're throwing a temper tantrum because I deleted your YouTube comment? Come on, man. Like, they demand to be taken seriously, but they show themselves to be completely unserious people. You know? It's like, I've got better shit to do. And I don't want the comment sections in my videos to become a fucking toxic swamp. I want it to be a place where people who have something to say about something I said in the video, they can leave a comment, they can ask a question, they can make an observation, they can offer a criticism if it's a relevant, civil, constructive criticism. I'm all for that. That's what I want the comment section to be. I don't want it to be, well, I saw that Bering made a video about you and I think you're an asshole, so I'm going to tell you about it. No, fuck you.
Like, I am Thor, wielder of the banhammer. Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, it seems like all the major shitlords are finding this video. Like, Irate Bear found this and made a comment, and I banned him immediately as soon as I saw his face. I'm kind of glad that I saw this coming, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna set up my page moderators before this happens.
We'll see. Well, I mean, when I do live streams, I always disable the chat, so they can't even try to get my attention on my own channel. So when I come on somebody else's channel, they have to come out and be like, you know, waving their arms and making a bunch of noise, hoping that they can provoke like a momentary side glance, because they're also desperate for people's attention that they claim to hate, you know. Little do they know that I don't pay any attention to the live chat anyway. Like, I don't look at it. Because I'm not here for that. I'm here to talk to you. I'm not here to look at the live chat and look at what, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's some cool people there and we've answered their questions, which is cool. But like, if some fucking asshole,
I'm screening things, because I'm not going to answer the questions of someone who's trying to poison the well. Like, someone goes, Steve Shives is the worst. Someone said, Steve Shives, I think you're actually sexist. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're getting banned.
Gee, I've never heard that before. I've never heard anybody say, you know,
sexist.
If you think about it, you're really the sexist one, or the racist one, or the transphobic one, or whatever. You know, I've never heard that before. I've heard that.
You're not transphobic, you're cisphobic, which is the biggest problem of
cisphobia. That's, I can't tell you how discriminated against I feel because I'm cis. Boy, that's, my life has just been terrible. It's
It
just the
must be
worst.
it must be terrible to not be told that you're in the wrong bathroom and to be told that
Yeah.
you're just going in the bathroom to harass people,
Yeah.
and then people who actually are going in to harass people to try and prove the point that you're supposed to not be going into the bathroom.
Yeah. I mean,
These are people who are like actually not trans.
I mean, if you do that kind of thing, then your life must either be going really good or really bad. Because either you don't have any real problems, so you have to make problems up and go bother trans people who just want to go use the bathroom, for God's sake, right? Or your life is so terrible that you're making up problems so you can focus on the made up problems and harass other people, and you won't have to deal with your own shitty life. It's probably one of those two things. I don't see how you can be a well-balanced, centered person with a satisfying life and possibly give a shit if trans women want to use the ladies' room. Like, who fucking cares?
My friend Jake said, "Oh, I wanted to ban that guy because this guy said something." And he's like, "There." Well, Jake is non-binary and goes by any pronoun. So I have this thing where I default to he because the name Jake. But
Yeah.
they were like, "But I wanted to ban that guy." Oh, Charming Man 93 block. I'm sorry. This is like a really fun game for me to like. It's part of why I don't use block bots is because I actually have fun like seeing like a tweet from someone that's just meant to like really be an asshole to me,
Yeah.
and just go, "Oops, blocked." I accidentally hit the block button.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing about people getting bent out of shape over being blocked or having their comment deleted or whatever. Like we were saying in the hangout we were in yesterday, and like we said a little bit here already. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, I don't see why anybody would give that much of a shit. And I don't see why anybody would feel so attached and entitled to like their fucking YouTube comment that they would get outraged and think that they were being silenced because the person who runs the channel decided that their comment wasn't suitable for that video. I mean, I feel like people, maybe it goes back to what we were saying earlier about like the little tiny YouTube bubble and how we forget how small and mostly inconsequential YouTube actually is. That people forget. People think that, I mean, I guess it's easy to fall into that trap as someone who makes videos. I could very easily get a big head about it and start thinking that what I do actually matters on like a global scale, when really it doesn't. I mean, it matters to
Someone named Talking Bollocks just said, "Invite Jeff Holiday onto your stream, or just continue and block and censor your little echo chamber. Your choice."
see, that's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about. The catch-22 shit.
Jake already blocked him. I went to block him and accidentally unblocked him.
That's that catch-22 shit that you were saying earlier. They make these demands like they're entitled to tell you how to run your own show.
I'm proud of my echo chamber. I keep it. The reason I have an echo chamber online in the first fucking place is because I deal with enough shit in the real world. I deal with enough really disgusting shit in the real world. Like your discourse is not new to me. That is the reason why I've heard it before. It's the same argument I've heard before. I don't need to hear it again.
That's a great point, and that's something that I think a lot of people ignore, is that just because you choose not to engage with people like that or with those opinions or with those attitudes doesn't mean that you're prejudging them. I have never heard an original idea from an anti-feminist or from an anti-SJW. They're all saying the exact same. They're not only saying the same shit as each other, they're saying the same shit that people said 100 years ago. It's the same arguments. They're not offering anything new to the conversation. So it's not as if, you know, it's like, well, how do you know that you don't agree with them unless you talk to them? Because there's this little thing called reading and watching videos and doing research. I mean, what? Tell me something that one of those people is going to say to me face to face that they haven't told other people 100 times, that I haven't heard 100 other people say, sometimes in the exact same words, and decided, oh, that's bullshit. I mean, people are so full of themselves and so entitled to anybody's attention that they want. You know, oh, I disagreed with your video, so now I demand that you talk to me. Man, fuck you. Who are you? You know, who are you to demand anybody's time? The whole thing is so strange to me. It's not strange to me anymore because I'm used to it. But I mean, before I was like a YouTube personality, it's just like, who fucking just walks up to somebody and says, I disagreed with this one thing you said, and now I demand that you stand here and talk to me about it for as long as I want. What the fuck? Like, who does that? Who are you?
So someone just did a mocking comment to someone else. Totally radical politics said, "I'll buy you a beer if you debate me."
Yeah, beer ain't that expensive. I can buy my own beer.
I pay extra for my beer, and it's still not expensive.
I mean,
by the way, radical politics, you are now a moderator. You have the almighty banhammer. I'm giving some cool people the whole ability because it's just perfect. It really, that way the comments moderate themselves.
Yeah.
I don't have to engage with it as much when I add some more moderators who are watching. Yeah, John Smith versus the world. Hey, it's Steve Shives. You suck. Blocked me, and then my friend Jake just blocked him.
And you know, the best part of that is that if you hadn't said that just now, I wouldn't even have seen that comment. Like, what is the fucking point? Like, what is it?
I mean, I don't need to be telling you about these comments, but I keep thinking you'll get a kick out of it, which is the reason I'm telling you.
I do, but I mean, I don't mind you telling me about them, but it's just the whole, like, what are you trying to accomplish? You know, I've never had
it's a big accomplishment apparently to be blocked by Shives.
Yeah,
you got shived.
Like right. Like nobody ever, like, you don't think anybody I've ever heard anybody tell me that I suck before? Like, do you really think that that's going to hurt my feelings?
Like, those are middle school level insults. Like, yeah. In 8th grade, the other day, like, because I didn't allow him to come over my house because, you know, my son had to do his homework. Yeah. He told me I suck as a parent. You know, do you think that really hurts my my feelings?
Well, yeah. I mean, the other thing is, I mean, I'm 37 years old. I'm married. I have rent to pay. I have bills to pay. I have responsibilities. I'm a grown up. You know, I went to college, and a fat lot of good it did me because here I am. But the point being, I went to college, and I actually put effort into my YouTube videos. Unlike the people who make response videos to me, I actually write my shit and try to make it look good and edit it and try to really try to make it as good as I possibly can within my limited abilities. I don't just steal other people's content and then riff on it and then put it up and let my hundreds of thousands of lemming followers, thumb it up and contribute to my Patreon or whatever. Like, I actually put work into the shit that I do, and it takes time and it takes craft, and I actually care about the quality of it for its own sake. Not just because I think it'll get a lot of views or whatever. So I've got shit to do. Like, when some random jerk leaves a comment and says, "You suck," or "You're wrong," or "Debate me," or whatever, like, I'm sorry, that means nothing to me. I got shit to do. I got shit that I actually care about, that I'm actually invested in, that takes up my time. You really think that I'm going to spend more than 2 seconds worrying about your dumb ass? I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah. Now Jeff Holiday's being pathetic on my Facebook, so I'm going to ban him from my page.
He's that again. That is something that a mature adult would do, right? That's something that a mature adult would do. You get thrown out of a live chat on a live stream for being inappropriate or because the host decided that they don't want you there. So that's something that a mature adult would do. You would go find, the Facebook page or find them on Twitter or whatever, and you would keep pissing and moaning about it because that's what a mature adult would do. That's what someone with their priorities sorted, who is a real grown-up person who deserves to be taken seriously, who isn't just a professional troll who panders to his audience for money, would do. That's something that a real mature person would do.
Yeah. I mean, what an actual mature person would do is they would move on.
They would look in the mirror and say,
probably should. Why did I get banned? Maybe I'll do that in the future.
Yeah, they would look in the mirror and say, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing that I have become a professional YouTube racist and misogynist? Like, that's my job, to be a racist and misogynist on YouTube. That's my job. Where did my life go wrong?
I'm just going to say, imagine being Pauly Lum, or like being Pauly Lum or Kirk, and all of a sudden you can't make money on YouTube anymore because YouTube as a platform doesn't exist or whatever. Whatever might happen, maybe it's just not feasible for them to make videos anymore. Basically, they're going to have to fill out a resume, and they're going to be like, what are your qualifications? I was a professional racist and misogynist on YouTube. Do you think that's going to be a good selling point?
Yeah, I made videos where I yelled at my camera for a few minutes and didn't really put any effort into it. And then on Twitter, I made a lot of rape threats. So I think you should hire me. I was incredibly racist and misogynist and transphobic and homophobic, and I think I'm the person for this job. No, I don't think so. Sorry.
Yeah. I think I'm the person for this service job, this job where you're supposed to be nice to people. Yeah. I have the years of me being an asshole to prove it.
Well, and it's like, even if they try to get, a job in the media, like, is anybody going to hire them to be a writer or a producer for something?
I mean, there's always Fox News, and as you said, World.
Yeah, I mean, you could, yeah.
Stormfront.
Yeah, you get a job at like Newsmax or something. I mean, but in any kind of legitimate medium, I mean, what are they gonna? What's their portfolio gonna be? Like, what writing samples can they show that won't just point people back to their YouTube channel where they go, oh wow, this guy really hates feminists. Oh wow, this guy really hates trans people. Gee, he seems to have a big problem with black people too. That's funny. Maybe we'll find somebody else.
There was another one I forgot to name. Breitbart.
Oh, fucking Breitbart.
Breitbart.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, Jake is like, I think all the shitlords are actually subdued. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're getting all that many shitty comments now. I mean, there's still someone who's like, if beer isn't your thing, I can send coffee or tea. Like, trying to get Steve to talk to him, but it's like, it's not being an asshole, but we'll let that there since the comments are largely harmless.
I mean, Bering tried to give me money, and I told him to go fuck himself.
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah, you can't buy your way in. Either I decide that you're worth talking to, or you're not.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a debate about like feminism 101 with me, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in that.
If you want to learn about it, it's a different story. But
exactly. But if you're going to be like, I think, yeah, go ahead.
If you want to debate it, you have to at least know what it's about. You have to know the theory. You have to know. You have to at least know the opposition. Like, if someone who has never read anything about socialist or communist or anarchist theory in their life is like, well, I want to debate socialism, communism, or anarchism with you. No. Unless you have knowledge and you can cite sources and you can like actually make a case against it, and it's an actual formal debate, I'm not willing to do it. And then
Yeah.
also, I don't even think I'm the smartest guy to actually do those debates. I mean, I know
Yeah,
how
me
to
neither.
debate. I've done like I was on the debate team in high school, but debate like it, or but I don't debate on YouTube because it's largely fruitless and it's about drama. It's not about
Right.
actually getting to issues
Exactly.
and actually making cases for your position. I mean, I
Exactly.
have about as much of a problem with feminists who are all about just engaging drama as I do with anti-feminists who are literally just about engaging drama. Because really, I don't think the drama is effective and it's kind of pointless. Um, Feminists who
Yeah.
engage in drama are people like Jenny McDermott, for example. I don't necessarily hate them
Yeah.
as much as anti-feminists, but I don't think they're useful to like anything. I don't think they're helping anybody.
No,
It,
I mean, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. And if you are someone who wants to learn, like you said, like if somebody just is contacting you because they think that you're someone who knows a lot about a particular subject and they just want, to just pick your brain or have a discussion or ask you some questions, that's the kind of thing you do in private. You don't challenge somebody to do a public hangout. You say,
yeah,
can I email you, or can I Skype with you for a few minutes, or whatever. You don't, or can I send you a DM? You don't say, come on my channel and we'll talk about it. Because what that is grandstanding.
yeah,
And that's you trying to use me or you or whoever to get people to watch them. And I'm just not interested in that. And the other thing is, I'm not interested in YouTube drama. I'm not interested in debates or fights or feuds. I don't give a shit. One of the reasons why I've never done a single response to any of the people who have done response videos about me, even though I've been lied on and defamed and demeaned and insulted and misrepresented and all kinds of other things, is because I don't want that kind of stuff on my YouTube channel. Like I said, I put a lot of work into my videos. I don't want my channel to be about fucking YouTube drama. I'll talk about it in hangouts like this, but I don't even really do these all that often
yeah,
because once in a while is enough for me, because I just honestly, I don't find this shit that interesting. I don't watch videos by people like that. I think that whole form is low class and doesn't take, and lazy. Everything about the anti-feminist YouTube Twitter community is just fucking laziness personified. They're lazy people who want to pretend that they're smart and clever and they're experts on stuff, but they don't want to put any fucking work into anything. I mean, Christy Winters mentioned it in the hangout we did yesterday. Like, when you do a formal debate where it's like a timed debate where you talk for 10 minutes and then they talk for 10 minutes and then you get a 5-minute rebuttal and then they get a 5-minute rebuttal and then you have a question period and then you have a final closing statement. Like, you have to actually work. You have to actually be able to talk about your subject and explain your position and why you're right for 10 minutes. You can't just bullshit. You have to know your subject and you have to know the other person's position and understand
that was
why they.
basically Sargon's that was basically Sargon's big issue in the debate that he had with Christy Winters, is that he knew jack shit about what she was saying, and it was all about just pushing completely myopic rhetoric that
Yeah.
had nothing to that was basically about feminism is cancer, but
Yeah.
without actually say, yeah, very, very mature. Steve has a girly dick. Mess.
Oh, that
So,
hurts. Like, what is
that,
that?
that
Like,
that so hurts.
that's so, oh, that hurts. Like,
Oh my God, my pride is wounded. You have
you,
shoved a sword right through my
yes,
pride.
you have cut me to the quick. Like, I mean, come on.
I now have to debate people like Bering.
Call me,
The
yeah,
earth
like,
is flat.
call me a
Someone's
duty
like, the
head.
earth is flat. Like, I think they're trying to get me to like block them. It's like, the earth is flat. Well, actually say something horrible and I'll block you. Until then, I'll just let you say whatever things that you want to pretend to believe just to like goad me into blocking you.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing about, you know, people try to get blocked on purpose, and that's why, like, on Twitter, for the last several months, actually, like, I haven't directly blocked that many people. Like, I usually mute people, because then they can, as my friend Foxy Jezebel says, they can talk to the wind, which is like, that's kind of a pleasing idea. Like, you mute somebody so they don't actually know they've been muted, so they can keep on yammering as long as they want, and they don't even know that you're not paying attention to anything they say. You know, they play these little games like, let me see if I can get him to block me, you know. And I just don't have fucking time for that. Like, I'm just not interested in that. And I don't care about you. You understand? Like, if you're just some random troll who's trying to get at me on Twitter, I don't care about you. You mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
I don't care about your getting your approval or anything.
Yeah. I'm going to say two people who I added as moderators are basically are Tracy Loxley and Rex Lessler, who also made a great point. If I can read it. The creationist debates have been going on since the mid-19th century. Ken Ham and Kirk Cameron are still here with their acolytes spreading BS. That is true. I will say that just generally, though, even just like if you're looking at it, there was this thing we said about Nazis and violence earlier. Have you ever, okay, do you know how Nazi propaganda stopped for a while? I will tell you that it wasn't because it was a bad idea that got phased out and is just suddenly, like, if that was the case, it wouldn't have recurred.
Right.
It was forcefully stomped out by governments, which I don't necessarily support the government doing something like that, but it had to be removed by force. Like, you got arrested you can still get arrested in Germany if you have anything resembling Nazi propaganda. Even like people have gotten in trouble even just for having swastikas that were crossed out to represent an opposition to fascism. They take that shit seriously. There's a reason there isn't as big of a neo-Nazi movement in Germany as there is in America and in other parts of Europe. I mean, there's a bit of one in Germany, but they don't have as much power as they do in other places. And it's because they've been forcefully stomped out. They are under the threat of legal persecution. This was not because it was a bad idea. This was because forces said, this is something that must never be allowed to be repeated. We must never be allowed to repeat this mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah. You hurt my feelings by calling me an authoritarian there, even though I just said that I don't support the state.
I've heard that one too.
I basically support protecting people who would be hurt. I really, that's really my only issue is harm. I'm sorry that I value a person's right to stay alive over your right to say really bigoted shit and attempt to incite violence. But, that's the way it is. I do not hold the right of free speech above all other rights. I do hold it as a very important right, and I largely let people speak. But when you're basically saying that people should be wiped off the face of the earth simply for a way that they were born, fuck you. You can get out.
Well, and
Nazism died in the political movement the day Hitler died. Did you not hear me say neo-Nazism and fascism? Like
I love that little.
Fascism still exists. You're semantics really when you say that.
I love that little bit of pedantry. Like, oh, they're not Nazis. There aren't any Nazis anymore. Okay, but you know what we mean. You pedantic little dipshit. You know what we mean.
That's like where you said where you're like, well, we shouldn't be calling them Nazis because Nazis were members of the National Socialist German Workers' Party.
Right.
We should be calling them what they really are, neo-Nazis.
Neo-Nazis, yeah. And or just Nazis for short. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those arguments. It's like, what are you even trying to accomplish? It's a fucking sea lioning argument. It's just, you're trying to just distract and clog up the discussion.
I'm smarter than you because I don't call them Nazis because they're not Nazis. They're Nazism died this day, whatever. And it's like,
yeah. It's like, well, congratulations.
Just because it's not happening exactly the same doesn't mean it isn't dangerous. The same ideas are what it's about, protecting from ideas that would threaten to kill people. Where like fascism is not something you fuck around with. Fascism is something that you take seriously, and I think that's something America has forgotten.
Oh, that's my God, yes.
In the U.S., that's getting popularity back. It's because we have not taken fascism seriously.
No, because
we've basically said speech at all costs.
We've forgotten what it looks like, and we've forgotten how it starts. You know. And,
yeah, it doesn't start as this super scary thing. It starts as, well, there's just a few questions about Jewish people and a few questions about Muslims and, a few questions here and there about whether, like, these people should have the right, should have, like, whether they should be treated as human or not.
Yeah.
And they're not bigoted for suggesting that Semitic people may be the reason why everything bad in the world happens.
No.
Same people argue, actually look at what Muslims are doing, and
they're just asking questions.
they're just asking questions. They're not Islamophobic.
Exactly.
Race. Yes, Jack, Islam isn't a race, just like every other race isn't actually a race and was an arbitrary designation to establish a hierarchy. That doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. And the way that Muslims are being targeted is a very racialized manner. They've created race. They've created common characteristics that may not actually be there, like how we basically, like, if you're thinking of a Muslim, you're probably, you might be thinking of Muhammad Ali, but like you're probably not thinking about some white guy in Massachusetts who converted to Islam. You're probably thinking of some scary brown person with a turban, which isn't even Arabic thing. Turbans are Indian, but you find them interchangeable with the headgear of Arab. You're probably thinking of some scary Arab guy in these clothes that are vaguely Arabic, shouting Allahu Akbar, essentially. You're not thinking of the fact that it's a group of 1.6 billion people worldwide of all different racial backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. You're thinking of some. Yeah, go ahead.
I realized that you didn't see the beginning of the video, but we actually covered this. You can contact Steve's mutual friends, or your mutual friends with Steve who haven't blocked you yet, and Steve will basically will take a look at your profile and decide whether he's okay with like allowing you to, like, with unblocking you.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people.
And you email him, as his email is right on his channel.
Yeah.
And basically will hold it up for a review, but he uses block bots. So most people who are blocked by Steve never actually engaged them at any point or never saw anything that they ever said, but simply tried to like avoid people who were following specific people because
Right.
they've basically gone and harassed him, and people like Demotivator Opinion, I think was blocked by Steve because they follow some shitlords who basically say really disgusting things, but mainly to like keep an eye on them and not actually because they like them.
Yeah, and Demotivator has been unblocked by me for quite a long time. He's one of my buddies. I didn't even remember having him blocked, to be honest, but I guess maybe I did at some point.
It might not have been him. It might have been someone else.
There's
but
somebody else. Yeah. Yeah, because I block without conscience, because I don't really care. There is one thing I want to say.
It's going to hurt if you block.
Exactly. It doesn't hurt anybody. All that means is that you don't get to talk to me on that platform. It doesn't harm you. It doesn't take away anything that you were ever entitled to in the first place. It's really not that big of a deal, and you should really maybe just not worry about it. But there is one thing I wanted to say. We were talking about the free speech warriors, and there was a really good point that there were several good points that ContraPoints made in his free speech video, the one that was taken down, where he said, if you care about free speech and you want as many people as possible to be able to speak their minds without fear or without being silenced, then you should care about protecting the access and the ability to speak of marginalized groups. And most of the internet free speech warriors, most of the Twitter and YouTube free speech warriors don't care about protecting the speech of marginalized people. All they care about is protecting their speech and their ability to say what they want to say whenever and wherever they want to say it to whomever they want to say it. And that is not caring about free speech. That is caring about yourself. That is being self-centered. That is making it all about you. And when ContraPoint said that if you really do care about free speech, you should also notice that certain kinds of speech have the effect of silencing other people. And that's one of the reasons why white supremacist speech, for example, should be frowned upon, and why platforms that want to be venues for robust, diverse, active free speech should not allow Nazis, for example, or white supremacists in general to hold sway, is because when you have an environment where white supremacists are allowed to say whatever they want, then the groups that are targeted by white supremacists will probably not feel comfortable talking, and they will be effectively silenced because you have allowed these people to take over. So if you really care about free speech and you care about everybody having a voice, then you should not allow an intolerant, bigoted group to control the platform. You should push them off to the side, or perhaps even ban them entirely from the platform, and allow a more diverse group of people to speak up and make their voices heard. That's what free speech looks like.
You're a political bigot. There's less political groups. You're not allowing conservatives who are racist to speak. Yeah, you bet your ass I'm not allowing conservatives who are racist.
Yeah, make your conservative case in a non-racist way.
And I'll allow you on.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't express yourself without being racist or sexist or whatever, then sorry, I don't care what you have to say anyway. If it's just like people they with when they get all upset because somebody is offended by a joke that they told, and my response is, well, you know, if you can't be funny without being racist, then maybe you're just not that funny to begin with. I mean, maybe you're not such a great comedian if you can't tell a joke without being racist or sexist or whatever. Maybe you're just not that funny. Because most people that I think of as being really funny people, even people who tread the line and say some risque things every once in a while and deal with some very touchy subjects, they don't rely on just saying outrageous, offensive things. They actually write jokes. They actually find insights. They actually make observations.
For example, like George Carlin didn't rely on like saying some things about PC culture, which of course he kind of the thing was is that was mainly like a 90s thing for him, and he later basically said that it wasn't as like that basically that was a relatively ignorant thing of him to say without an understanding of like how PC culture. I mean, to be honest, if we're going to talk about it, PC culture is kind of a buzz phrase, like a buzzword. It's thrown at people who are less bigoted and don't want to hear your shit is ultimately what it is. Arguing that political correctness is ruining comedy because some people say, hey, we don't find that joke funny, and that was and that's the majority of the population. That's not their issue. All right, Steve, are you still there? Seems like some technical difficulties. Oh, the what's with all the downvotes? The downvotes are from people who really just didn't want to see this conversation, or people who really just didn't like that I blocked them. So I think we'll wait for Steve to come back. Hey, Jake, are you enjoying yourself? Yep, it seems like Steve dropped out because of some technical issues. Jake, are you enjoying yourself? Okay, I see. Nice. Oh, okay. So maybe we can try and get some legitimate questions about Steve, or we can just continue to shitpost because this chat is fucking hilarious. I'm going to contact Steve. This is kind of an awkward situation. I've never been in a hangout room by myself on these chats. Agreed, DTM, agreed. Technology just sucks sometimes. No, Tam, I don't think you get it. The whole thing that's making it funny is that the messages are getting deleted. Well, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to read messages. But as a black person, I find it funny when people say the N-word. If you have to try and use that word to denigrate me, it doesn't, by the way. You are just a loser, and I'll laugh in said person's face. I almost want to send like an invite to like DTM or Jake and just have them get in here while we figure out what's going on with Steve. Oh, wow. Blocking Jeff Holiday on Twitter. I should have known I'd get a whole bunch of Twitter notifications about this. Oh, shit. Well, it seems like I have to call it a stream. All right. Bye.